Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about all of the books that I read this spring. So all the books I read in April and all the books I read in May. The first book I read was The Deal, and it is part of the Off-Campus series, and it was written by L. Kennedy. It's a whole, series, right? So there's 4 different couples. This couple in this book was Hannah and Garrett. Garrett plays hockey. I almost said soccer. I don't know where I got soccer. He plays hockey, and Hannah is an aspiring songwriter, singer, performer type thing. They're in college. It's their junior year of college, and it just kind of, takes it through their little life. I enjoyed this one. I was, unsure about this series but I've heard good things, I've heard bad things. So I decided we were going to try it because we were right in the middle of our fantasy era. So I we needed a little romance to pop in there. So we tried this one. It was good. I rated this one a 4-star. we're going to talk about 3 of the books so far today, and this one was my favorite so far, so we'll see. You'll see how I feel as we get through. The next book I read, if you remember from my March wrap-up, I had started A Court of Thorns and Roses series, the ACOTAR series, and I had just finished the second one, which was A Court of Mist and Fury, and that was fantastic. I loved it. And then I read this one, A Court of Wings and Ruin, Echo War. And this one was my favorite, like by far my favorite. I still think about this book and I just want to read this book. Can I just read the one book from the series? Is that okay? Even though I just read it, it's fine. This one was the war book. I literally read the first 200 pages in one sitting without moving. Then the middle part took me a hot minute. And then once I got to here-ish, I sat outside. It got warm in Indiana and it was nice. I got to sit in my lawn chair. I sat outside and I literally finished the whole book in 4 hours. So there's that. And this one, of course, I rated it a 5-star. The next book I read was this short, sweet little book, A Court of Frost and Starlight. And this one it's after the war happens. It just kind of, it's upside down. After the war happens, it just kind of, walks us through Feyre and Rysand's and their lives, kind of how they're regrouping after the events of this book. And this one was okay. I mean, it was just like a little novella. Nothing too fancy about it. I ended up rating this one a 3 stars. It wasn't awful, but we didn't necessarily need it. So there's that. Then after I read these 2, I thought about reading A Court of Silver Flames, and then I decided not to. And I ended up watching all of the ACOTAR reading spoiler video vlogs on YouTube that I could find because I wanted to read this one again. I didn't want to read anything else. I wanted to read this one again. But I didn't. I ended up reading something different. I ended up reading The Love Wager. Sorry, Isaac just walked out and he distracted me. After ACOTAR, I read The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. It comes after Mr. Wrong Number, but you don't need to read Mr. Wrong Number to read this one. It's part of the same world. This one, it's about Hallie and Jack, and they meet at a wedding. They make a little wager to see who can get a date on a dating site, who could get a date or who could fall in love basically first. And it's really cute. It's really realistic. There's a lot of good quotes that are real life events. This one is actually one of Isaac's favorite books. He claims he picked it out, but he didn't pick it out because it's Lynn Painter. She's an auto-buy author now, so it's fine. This one I rated a 5-star. It was good. I enjoyed it. This one is an adult novel, so, ages 18 and over. With Lynn Painter, it can get she writes young adult and she writes adult, so this one is an adult novel, 18+. Thank you. All right, and then moving on, we read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This one, it was about Daniel and Alexis. And Alexis gets into some car trouble on her way home from something and stops in Daniel's little small town, and he comes to her rescue, and it's so cute. This one is actually an age gap, but it's a reverse age gap, so she's older than him. which was kind of nice. This one was good. I liked it. I rated this one 4 stars. This one again is 18 plus adult book. I've read most of Abby Jimenez's books, and here she had words are hard. The way she writes, you know, it's fun. It's comedic. There's banter, but there's also like an underlying personal, like deep, meaningful topic that she covers in her books. So that's always, you know, a nice little refresher instead of, you know, the typical boy meets girl, they fall in love, there's a third act conflict, we break up, we get back together. Like, it's nice when there's something deeper in there too, so that there's more to the story. Then we read Ugly Love, right? Yes, Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I liked this one. I rated this one a 4-star again. It is about Tate and Miles. Miles and Tate's brother work together, and Miles lives across the hallway in their apartment. It's a hallway from Tate's brother, and then Tate has to go live with her brother for different circumstances. It is dual POV, so we get Tate's perspective and we get Miles' perspective. It's not your typical cutesy little romance. There is deep, meaningful underlying topics in this one too. I feel like I've read like all 3 that I just talked about in a day, because it got sunny and it got warm in Indiana. I think I mentioned that. And I got to sit outside in my lawn chair and read my books, and it was fantastic, and I read so many books. And I read Colleen Hoover books really fast anyway. She has a nice, easy, flowy writing style. Again, adult book, 18 plus. All right, then we read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and this was actually the book club pick for Sarah Caroli's book club in, what month are we in? April still. We're still in April. This is part of a duology. I have the other one. I did not read the other one. This is about Evangeline and Jax. It's like kind of like an Alice in Wonderland type, not like retelling, but it has that vibe to it. You know that vibe I'm talking about. It was really cute. It was really good. It's part of, you know, the Caraval series. So you read, like, the reading order technically goes Caraval, like 3 Caraval books, and then this one and The Ballad of Ever After, and then there's a 3rd one coming out in October, I think. But I did not read the Caraval trilogy first, because you don't have to, but I kind of wish I did. So instead of, you know, going through these, I decided to go back, and we're going to read Caraval and then those books, and then go and finish these books. But I really enjoyed this. I read this really fast. She has like nice, flowy, lyrical writing. This is young adult fantasy, so easy writing. No spice, nothing like that. So it was nice. It was a good, you know, fantasy to mix in after reading ACOTAR and reading all the romances and then having another fantasy again. It was nice. It was good. I enjoyed it. Did I rate this? I rated this a 3.5 star. I read The Mistake, which is book number 2 in the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. This one, the couple was Grace and Logan, and I enjoyed their story as well. Not as much as Hannah and Garrett's, but it was still, I thoroughly enjoyed their story. The thing about this book I didn't like is we had like our 3rd act conflict in the beginning of the book in a sense, and it didn't flow as, I get where she was going with it, but it didn't flow in my mind the way I needed it to flow. And so that's why I only rated it 3 stars. But it was still a good book. I enjoyed it. Once we got past the beginning, like the first third of it, the second 2/3 were normal, and I enjoyed those better. Now we can talk about my favorite book. And if you haven't guessed by now, it is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. And yes, I splurged, and there was a deal going on where you could get, you know, the fancy schmancy cover, book jacket cover, and look at the inside. Isn't it just, it's so pretty. It has a little library in it. I love it so much. And it's autographed. So there's that. It's perfect. I love it. I love this book so much. So the reason I reread this book, and yes, I reread the whole book, was because in this special edition, the last part of it is Elliot's, the guy, main character in this book, Elliot's point of view. And we have been waiting for this for years. I enjoyed it so much. So of course I had to go in, I had to reread the whole book before I read the last 50 or so pages of Elliot's POV. And I love it. It's great. It's one of my, 5 star, 6-star, if you will, reads. Macy and Elliot are just wonderful. I love them. And then Isaac read the book, and he did not enjoy the book, and I'm mad at him because he does not enjoy my favorite book. But I like it. And I have the special edition, and it makes me happy every time I look at it. All right. That's April. Moving on to May. The first book we read in May was Happy Place by Emily Henry. And this is her new book that just came out in April, the end of April. And this was the May book pick for Sarah's book. And I read this one in a couple days. It's so good. Wynn and Harriet are just the cutest couple. The premise is we have 6 friends from college, and they go to the lake house in Maine every year and, have the week together. Wynn and Harriet have broken up. They have not told their friends. They go to the cabin and they fake date in front of their friends. No big deal, right? Like, it's fine. I love this. I love the fake dating trope. It's good. I know it's predictable, but I love it anyway. 5-star read. Like, one of my favorite books I've read this year. It's good. I enjoyed this one. Then we read Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This one is a thriller. Well, it's not a thriller. It's a cozy mystery, if you will. It's, it has a murder, but it's not dark. It's fun. It's a fun murder. I feel like I can't say that either, but it's fine. All right, it's about Meddy, and she goes on a blind date that her mom sets up for her and accidentally kills him, on the blind date. Turns out that he was, there's a wedding the next day, and her and her mom and her aunts are the wedding coordinators. The hotel that the wedding is at was run by the blind date that Meddy had killed the night before. That's storyline number 1. Storyline number 2 is that she, needs to hide the body. So her and her aunties, are trying to hide the body while still trying to coordinate this wedding. Storyline number 3, yes, there's 3, is she then runs into her ex-boyfriend.
It's a fun murder.
Yeah, it was good. I read this one in a day. You can see a theme going on in this video where I read books in a day. Like, we're to that point. It was really good. I rated this a 4-star. The ending it was good. Like, I enjoyed myself this whole entire time. The ending wasn't the best. It could have been wrapped up a little better, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. If you read it, you might like it. Okay, moving on. We read The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams, and this one is just a cute little light, fluffy, no spice, just here book. It's about Nathan and Bree. Nathan is a football player. There's Nathan. Nathan is a football player. Bree is a ballerina. They were friends back in high school. College happened and they didn't talk. And then they both ended up back in the same city. I think somewhere in California. And they're, of course, best friends again. So it's friends to lovers. Super cute, super sweet. Like, her writing is it's so perfect. No drama, no nothing. Just let's be friends and fall in love type deal, right? It's cute. I rated this one a 4-star. Then we read Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. And this one, I started my, let's read summer books because it got warm outside and it's great. I love summer. This one is about Percy and Sam, and they live at the summer cottage growing up. They're best friends. Then something happened. They stop talking. And then Percy has to go back for a funeral and they reconnect again. You might be thinking, well, that sounds familiar. It does sound familiar because it's kind of the same premise as Love in Other Words. It is different though. They're at the beach house. It had every single one of the summer vibes. Like, I was ready for summer to happen. We had 2 weeks of school left, but I was ready. I was ready for summer to go sit at the beach, sit by the lake, read my book. But anyway, I enjoyed this book. I didn't like it as much as Love in Other Words. There were a lot of similarities, especially, this was not dual POV, but different timelines. Especially during the now timeline, there were a lot of similarities that they were good, but Love in Other Words is better. But then the past timeline, it was different, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing how they grew up, seeing how they became friends, seeing all that. The ending, there was a little twist in there. I'm not the biggest fan of the trope that happened, but it happened. I still enjoyed the book. I rated it a 4-star read. It was good. I enjoyed it. I recommend it. Read it. It gives all the summer vibes. It was great. Then we read Shatter Me. And if you remember, Isaac read these books back in January and February, and he has been begging me to read these books since then. And I finally caved and I read Shatter Me. It is about Juliet, and she has this thing where if she touches someone, then she kills them. So she has been confined. Then she's brought out, and she's in this new world. And there's two guys. There's Adam, and then there's Warner. And there's a love triangle thing going on here. It was good. I enjoyed myself while reading this. It's just after reading, Summer, and then reading this, I'm like, I see where all the hype is. I will finish the series. Just I haven't finished it yet. I wasn't in the mood for a young adult fantasy dystopian novel. It was good. I enjoyed it. I just wasn't in the mood. I read this a 3-star. Then I read Destroy Me, which is the little novella. There's 2 novellas in this one, actually. But this Destroy Me was the first one. This is from Warner's POV, kind of following the same timeline as Shatter Me. But Warner, he's one of the guys. I mean, it makes sense. Now that we read his point of view, it makes sense. This one, I also rated a 3-star. It was short, like a couple, not even 200 pages. 109 pages, just a little over 100 pages, short, sweet, simple, to the point, we get where Warner's coming from now, and I understand it. Then we read The Score by Elle Kennedy. That's book 3 in the Off-Campus series. It follows Dean and Allie. Dean is the hockey player. Allie is actually Hannah's best friend from book 1, and she is an aspiring actress. It was good. I rated this one a 3-star. It wasn't my favorite. I liked the first 2 better. I feel like they're just slowly going downhill, which is sad. But I'm gonna finish the series anyway because I'm this far in. I'm actually reading the 4th one right now, and then I have the little novella one. Then we read The Soulmate Equation. This is actually a reread for me. I read this back a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. This one follows River and Jess, and River runs a company, and he is developing this software called DNA Duo, and it basically, you give DNA and it gives you matches of who you're going to fall in love with. So Jess and her friend Fizzy send in their DNA. Jess and River get matched, and remember, River is the CEO of this whole company, so they have to try and navigate this whole, we'll have to, figure this out for publicity type thing, yet, well, do we actually have feelings for each other, or do we only have feelings for each other because our compatibility score was so high, figuring out that path for them. It's good. I enjoyed it. Another Christina Lauren book. I always enjoy her book. I rated this one a 4-star, and you'll see in a minute why I reread this book. Then we read a thriller. We read Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kubica, and this one is about 2 different couples. We have Christian and Lily, and we have Nina, and we have Jake. And Jake suddenly goes missing. Lily thinks that she has something to do with it. It's dual POV. We follow Nina's point of view and we follow Christian's point of view. And remember, Christian was Lily's husband. So we follow their point of view, trying to figure out where Jake is, how he went missing, what is going on. It's good. It's, your typical thriller. I rated this one, I can't decide if it's 3.5. It feels too low. 3.5 feels too low, but 4 feels too high. So can we do a 3.75? 3.75. It was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time reading it, but it wasn't my favorite thriller I've read. And granted, I haven't read a lot of thrillers, but it wasn't my favorite. And I've heard this author, it's either knock it out of the park or people hate it. So it's, it was right there in the middle for me. The last book I read this month was The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. And yes, this is why I had to reread The Soulmate Equation, because this one follows Fizzy, who is Jess's best friend. Fizzy she's an author, and she is approached to be the star on a reality dating bachelorette type TV competition by Connor. He usually films documentaries type things, but his company wants him to produce this dating show. So he approaches Fizzy, and at first Fizzy is like, no. And then she thinks about it, and she comes up with her list of terms in Fizzy style. And Connor agrees to these terms. And so she's on this dating competition trying to find true love. And the reason it connects to this book, not just because Fizzy is Jess's best friend, but the premise of the dating show is that they chose guys, like they all did their DNA duo testing thing from the first book. And so they chose guys based on their compatibility scores with Fizzy. And it was kind of like the audience got to vote each week to see who Fizzy would end up with based on what they saw. And then at the end, they revealed the DNA duo scores. So that was, a cool twist on your normal Bachelor type reality show. I enjoyed this. I love Fizzy. She is just so spunky and sassy. I ended up rating this one a 4.5 star. It was close to a 5 star, but it was missing something. I don't know what it was missing, but it was missing something. But it was still really good. I enjoyed this. I'm glad I read this. All right, so those are all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 19 books I read in April and in May. That feels like a long time ago. Some of these books I'm like, I remember reading them, but it was a long time ago. Now to the fun part, we're going to talk about some of the books I'm going to read in June. So I have some picked out, and I have some like summary books down there, but I'm not sure if I'm going to read them in June or July. So it'll be a surprise. You'll just find out when you see the wrap-up videos. First couple books are Sarah Adams' book. She wrote the cheat sheet that I read. This one is When in Rome, and this one is Practice Makes Perfect. They're part of a little duology. This one is the book club pick for Sarah Crowley's book club in June. So obviously, if this is the second one, we have to read the first one, right? Now, the reason we picked the second one is because you don't have to read the first one to read this one. But at the same time, I've also heard if you read this one first, this one is better. So obviously, I'm going to read this one first, and then I'm going to read this one. Honestly, I have no idea what these are about, but I like Sarah Adams. I like her writing. They're cute, fun, fluffy, cupcakey novels. This one, Opposites Attract. We have Amelia and we have Noah. Amelia is a pop star, high profile. Noah runs a bakery in a little small town, and they meet, and I'm sure it's going to be cute. Bakery, small town, what could go wrong? Then Practice Makes Perfect. We have Annie. She runs a flower shop in Rome, in the town from this book. So we have the bakery, and we have the flower shop. And then we have Will, who is a bodyguard. Okay. Yes. All right, I don't want to read too much because I feel like it's going to spoil this one. These two are on my list. Then the other one that's definitely on my list for June is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This one is a book that my friend Jalen and I picked out. We're going to read this together. We're going to buddy read it. And we're going to talk about it. And it's going to be great. It's about Naomi and Knox. And I believe, based on what I've read and seen, is that Naomi needs to come back to this small town where her sister lives. Her sister and her niece lives. And then her sister suddenly but abandons her daughter, and Naomi has to take care of it. This should be interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to read this. I've heard lots of good things about this. I love Lucy Score's writing. She is so good. Her books are chunky, but I'm excited to read this one and talk about it with Jalen. Now, we're going to go and we're going to find this lovely jar of books in here. And here's the thing, as I've been reading, I'm a mood reader, right? So as I buy books, I'll write down the name of the book and put it in the jar. But as I read books, I won't go through all my pieces of paper and pick out the ones I've read. So there might be books in here that I have read that I didn't pull out. So if we pick one of those, it'll be fine. I'm going to pick 2 books for June, and we'll see if that happens or not. The first book out of our jar that we are going to read in June is The Admissions by Meg Mitchell Moore. I'm going to pick another one before I get the books out. The second book out of my jar that we are picking is this one. How to Find Love in a Bookshop by Veronica Henry. Let me go get those. How to Find Love in a Bookshop by Veronica Henry. I don't know what it's about. I bought this at a thrift shop for like $1, so that was nice. It looks good. Amelia, she is the owner of the bookshop. I'm assuming she falls in love because that's the title of the book. Then the next one we have is The Admissions, and I got this one at a thrift shop for like $1. And I believe this one is a thriller. So that'll be nice to read a thriller in June. Let's see. We have The Hawthorne Family Has It All. Great job. It's a beautiful house on one of the most affluent areas in Northern California, and 3 charming kids whose sunny futures are all assured. And then comes their eldest daughter's senior year of high school. She's a straight-A student. She's off to Harvard, yada, yada, yada. But mom is stretched to the limit, which will be nice. A nice little family dynamic read instead of the normal romance dynamic read. Consider read all these books, and you'll see in my June wrap-up if I actually get to these books or not. But I have high hopes we can do this. All right, that's all. That's it. Those are all the books I've read in April and in May. Good. I'm not good. Thank you for watching this video. Please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, do all of the YouTubey things that you know how to do. And I hope that you keep reading, because I know I am. Thank you for watching Messy Reads.